A lot of people ask me about the rotator cuff and the rotator cuff muscles. What are they and where do they go? What do they do? Well, let's take a look at them. This is the back of the human body shown through the miracle of visible body. And here's the shoulder. And this is one of the rotator cuff muscles. Here's another one, and those are the only ones we can see in this picture. So I'm going to start to hide some of the muscles that lie on top of them, and I'm going to name them all for you. There's a common mnemonic that you learn in medical school called SITS, and they stand for supraspinatus, and that's this muscle up here. It's a muscle that is above the spine of the scapula. It starts out along this entire fossa, and then it reaches out and attaches onto the humerus. I'm going to hide the posterior deltoid, and I'm going to show you infraspinatus. That's the second of the rotator cuff muscles. SI for infraspinatus. Infraspinatus starts out along the entire fossa below the spine of the scapula and reaches out to the humerus again. All of these muscles together sort of reach out and form a tendinous cuff, and that cuff where they attach onto the humerus is called the rotator cuff. So infraspinatus is the second of the four rotator cuff muscles. SIT, T stands for teres minor, and that's the third of the rotator cuff muscles. It also reaches out and attaches, and you can see that these three muscles, it's hard to see with the supraspinatus, but they all reach out and they form an attachment here that makes them function as a group collectively together, and they tend to work together. The only problem is sometimes if a force is applied to the body that is so great, one of these muscles could be torn and it would no longer attach onto the head of the humerus. Another thing that can happen is the cuff can partially tear. And so that's what happens when people have a rotator cuff partial tear or a total tear. One of the things we do at the surgery center is we actually go in and through the miracle of modern medicine and anchors and modern technology, we can actually reattach that muscle onto the bone, which is pretty cool. Well, I've only told you about 3 of the rotator cuff muscles, and I got one more to go. That final muscle is the one that a lot of people don't really know about. It's called the subscapularis. All of these muscles in the back, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, are all involved in what's called external rotation of the shoulder. The subscapularis lies on the underside of the scapula. If we slide over here to the other side, I've prepared it for you. I took all the muscles away. Here's the scapula, and the scapula actually is the bone that is the socket in the ball and socket joint of the shoulder. Pretty cool. Well, if I come around, you can see, wow, there's a giant long muscle that's on the underside of this bone called the scapula. This giant long muscle that comes and reaches actually to the front of the shoulder is called the subscapularis. It's the fourth of the rotator cuff muscles. All of these are very small muscles. You can see here I left supraspinatus on this side just so you can see that supraspinatus comes out here and has this small thin attachment. And I would think of the rotator cuff muscles as like the maestro that conducts the symphony of the arm. They're small. They have critically important roles in terms of orienting and creating stability of the shoulder, but they're not giant muscles like the lat here or the pec here that also work on the shoulder. But together with the big muscles, they ensure that the shoulder functions in an optimal way.